Welcome to today's deep dive. We have a highly specific and frankly really fascinating mission for our time together today.
We really do.
Yeah, so we are unpacking a masterclass source document that is completely focused on advanced C2 English concepts.
Right.
But before you think this is some sort of dry grammar lesson, let me stop you right there. We are specifically looking at the vivid, highly visual language that native speakers use to describe, well, productivity and time management.
And really that universal daily struggle of just overcoming procrastination, right?
Exactly. The goal here isn't just to decode these idioms so you can, sound more articulate in a boardroom.
So that is a nice bonus.
Oh, for sure. But we're actually extracting the powerful mental frameworks that are hidden inside these phrases. That way you can evaluate your own workflow, your focus, and your energy.
Yeah, because language is really the primary tool we use to categorize our reality.
Yeah.
I mean, when highly effective people talk about their daily routines or the execution of massive goals, they don't just use basic phrases.
Like saying, I am working hard.
Right, exactly. I'm working hard. That language just, it lacks utility. It doesn't capture the nuanced mechanics of the experience at all.
No, it's too flat.
It is. So instead, they rely on this vibrant mix of mechanical measuring instruments, 19th century literary metaphors, and even culinary concepts.
Which is wild when you think about it.
It is. But they do this because they are trying to solve a very modern, very psychological problem, which is making invisible work visible.
Okay, yes, that is the core tension right there. Because think about how human beings evolved to measure physical labor, right? There's this expectation of absolute precision.
Oh, absolutely.
Like you look at construction, you lay 100 blocks and the wall is tangibly 100 bricks higher. The foreman points to it. You can physically touch the mortar. You can see the progress.
It's totally categorical.
Yeah.
And we deeply crave that one-to-one correlation. I mean, effort equaling a physical, undeniable result, that gives the human brain a profound sense of safety.
Right. But then you step into the modern world of knowledge work and you're, managing a complex software rollout or studying for a postgraduate degree or maybe trying to write a novel.
And suddenly that brick wall disappears entirely.
It's just gone. You are operating in a landscape of productivity that is completely invisible. You can sit at a desk for 12 hours, you can sweat, panic, type furiously, and at the end of the day,
you might have produced absolutely nothing of true value.
Exactly.
The effort is present, but the visibility is gone. And that disconnect really is the primary engine of modern professional anxiety.
Because you don't know if you're actually doing anything.
Right. You're expending caloric energy, but you lack a feedback loop to tell you if you're actually surviving or just flailing around. Yeah. Which is exactly why we reach for the first concept in our source document today to reestablish that feedback loop.
To make the invisible visible again.
Yes. When the brick wall is gone, we have to invent a gauge.
Yeah.
We have to look for work that moves the needle.
Okay, moving the needle. This is such a ubiquitous idiom in the corporate and personal development worlds.
It really is.
And the imagery is super straightforward. You have an old school analog measuring instrument, like a speedometer on a dashboard, a seismograph, maybe a financial gauge. The needle is that physical indicator of reality.
Yeah, and the mechanism behind the metaphor is what makes it so powerful. Think about the binary nature of a gauge.
Right.
If that needle is sitting dead still, absolutely nothing is changing in your environment. It doesn't matter how much background noise there is.
It's just zero.
Exactly. Doing work that moves the needle means making a noticeable, measurable impact on a project.
Yeah.
You're actually forcing reality to change.
So our source uses a classic example for this, which I think we can all relate to. Spending your entire morning replying to emails and achieving inbox zero.
Oh, the inbox zero trap.
Right. Your brain gives you a little dopamine hit for every single email you archive. You feel incredibly productive. But if your ultimate goal is, say, a quarterly sales target,
clearing those emails doesn't move the needle at all.
Not even a little bit. Making the difficult, high-stakes phone calls to potential clients, well, that's what forces the gauge to twitch.
Yeah, and I take that a step further and look at the underlying psychology there. Because we fall into the email trap because of something economists call Goodhart's Law.
Oh, what's that?
So Goodhart's Law states that when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure.
Interesting.
Yeah, we start measuring our day by tasks completed rather than impact made. And answering an email is a task. It's a low-risk, highly predictable action.
Whereas making a cold call is high-risk, vulnerable, and completely unpredictable.
Exactly. The brain naturally gravitates toward the predictable dopamine of the inbox to soothe the anxiety of that invisible landscape we just talked about.
So we're basically self-medicating with busy work.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit, though. Let me push back slightly. Are we saying busy work like organizing the inbox or color-coding the project management software, filing the expenses? Is that entirely useless?
Well, no, not entirely.
Because some of that is just the basic hygiene of being a professional. I mean, you can't just ignore your boss's emails because they don't, quote-unquote, move the needle on your personal project, right?
Right. The hygiene is totally necessary. But the danger lies in the deception.
How so?
We have to separate the maintenance of the machine from the forward propulsion of the machine. Changing the oil in your car is vital hygiene, but it doesn't actually drive the car to your destination.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
The insidious nature of busy work is that it mimics the physical sensation of needle-moving work.
Right. Your fingers are on the keyboard, your eyes are tracking text.
You feel busy, but it steals the prime cognitive hours of your day under the guise of productivity, which allows you to completely avoid the heavy lifting.
Wow, yeah. You feel like you're driving, but you're just sitting in the driveway revving the engine.
Exactly.
Which actually is a perfect segue into the inverse scenario our source covers. What happens when you aren't hiding in busy work?
Right, when you're doing the opposite.
Yeah, you're actually tackling the heavy needle-moving task. You're pouring massive amounts of genuine effort into it, but the needle still refuses to budge. The source calls this spinning your wheels.
Which is the visceral opposite of gaining traction.
Yeah, the metaphor here paints such a vivid picture. It places you behind the wheel of a car that is stuck deep in thick mud or snow.
We've all been there.
And you press the gas pedal to the floor, the engine roars, the RPMs max out, the tires are spinning incredibly fast, throwing mud everywhere, but the vehicle doesn't inch forward a single bit.
And the physics of that metaphor map perfectly onto human frustration. I mean, to move a car, you require friction. The tire has to grip a solid surface to translate that rotational energy into forward motion.
But in the mud, that friction is just completely absent.
It's gone. So all that internal combustion, all the fuel being burned, is instantly converted into wasted heat and flying debris. Idiomatically, spinning your wheels means expending a violent amount of time and energy without achieving any tangible results.
And let's look at the neurobiology of that wasted energy, because it's exhausting.
Oh, deeply exhausting.
Like when you are stuck on a complex problem, say trying to debug a piece of software code, or figure out a structural flaw in a massive presentation.
Your brain is burning glucose at an incredibly high rate.
Yeah, the cognitive load is just massive. But because you aren't getting the reward of a solution, the brain's threat detection center, the amygdala, starts to activate.
Right, and that internal roaring engine feeling is the literal sensation of an amygdala hijack.
Oh, wow.
Your frustration mounts, your cortisol spikes, and your higher order thinking begins to just shut down entirely.
I mean, I want you, the listener, to think about the last time you felt your own engine roaring like that. The source gives this example of staring at a broken software bug for 3 unbroken hours. You're typing, deleting, running it, and failing.
You're just trapped in a loop.
Totally trapped. And the solution the source offers for this is deceptively simple. You just have to walk away and look at it later with fresh eyes.
Which is incredibly difficult to do.
Because of the sunk cost fallacy.
Exactly. When we've invested 3 hours into a problem, our ego demands that we keep pushing. Taking our foot off the gas feels like surrendering.
Right.
But neurologically, stepping away is the only way to actually solve the problem.
Wait, how so? Because taking a break feels like you're giving up the momentum, you know? Even if the momentum is just spinning tires in the mud.
Well, when you stare intensely at a problem, you're using a highly focused neural pathway. But when you finally take your foot off the gas and walk away, maybe go for a walk or take a shower, your brain switches into the default mode network.
The DMN.
Yeah, the DMN is the brain's background processing state. It starts making lateral connections, connecting disparate pieces of information that your intensely focused brain was completely ignoring.
Oh, so that's what fresh eyes actually means.
Yes. It's not just, resting your retinas. It's allowing your unconscious mind to find the solid ground your conscious mind couldn't see.
Okay, but, and here's where it gets really interesting, stepping away introduces a completely different, highly engineered modern danger.
Oh, absolutely.
Because when you realize you're spinning your wheels and you finally pull yourself away from the desk to take a break and let that default mode network kick in, you are immediately vulnerable.
Yes, you are.
You are stepping into a landscape that is explicitly designed to prevent you from ever returning to that needle-moving task.
You're walking right to the edge of the rabbit hole.
Yes, to go down a rabbit hole. I have to say, I absolutely love the lineage of this phrase.
It's brilliant.
It's a direct literary metaphor from Lewis Carroll's 1865 novel, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Alice follows a white rabbit, falls down a literal hole, and tumbles into this bizarre, endlessly illogical fantasy world.
She leaves reality completely behind.
Completely. And the source notes that in modern internet culture, this means getting completely absorbed in a fascinating, but ultimately distracting topic that pulls you exponentially further from your original objective.
The transition from a Victorian children's story to a diagnosis of modern digital behavior is just remarkably precise.
It really is.
But what's truly terrifying is the architectural parallel. A literal rabbit warren is an underground network of interconnected tunnels, right?
Right.
Well, the modern internet, which is specifically built on hyperlinks, is literally a digital warren.
It maps perfectly onto Carroll's metaphor. The internet is designed to be a wonderland of interconnected holes.
Yes.
Our source offers an example that I think everyone listening has lived through. You go to YouTube with a highly specific utilitarian goal.
Like a quick tutorial.
Exactly. You need a 5-minute tutorial on an Excel spreadsheet formula for work. You watch it, but right there in the sidebar is a recommended video.
And you click it.
And then another. And suddenly, 2 hours later, the spreadsheet is a distant memory, and you are deeply engrossed in an investigative documentary about the history of the Egyptian pyramids.
Right. Let's dissect why that happens, because it's important to realize it's not a failure of your personal willpower.
It's not.
No, it's a triumph of algorithmic engineering. The algorithms powering these platforms function exactly like Carroll's White Rabbit. They are constantly waving a pocket watch, promising novelty and urgency.
Oh, wow.
They utilize variable reward schedules, which is the exact same psychological mechanism that makes slot machines addictive.
And here's the insidious part that the expert analysis really highlights. The distraction isn't inherently bad or boring.
Right.
Because if the video is boring, you just close the tab and go back to Excel. The real danger is that the distraction is objectively fascinating.
Exactly. The human brain has a really powerful novelty bias.
Yeah.
Learning about the hidden chambers of pyramids triggers a massive release of dopamine.
It feels rewarding.
It does. You experience what psychologists call the illusion of competence. Because you're absorbing new, interesting information, your brain tells you that you're doing something valuable.
So you feel productive.
Yes.
Yeah.
But within the context of your actual goals, the needle you actually need to move, you are engaging in high-level procrastination.
You're gathering trivia while the engine of your actual life is completely stalled.
Exactly.
So how do we defend against this? I mean, we can't just eliminate our curiosity.
No, of course not.
The source document provides the antidote, and it requires this kind of ruthless prioritization. We have to take those fascinating tangential ideas and put them on the back burner.
To put something on the back burner, we leave the literary world and enter a highly relatable culinary metaphor.
Yes, let's paint this picture. Imagine a standard 4-burner kitchen stove. You're cooking a complex meal.
Okay.
You've got a delicate reduction sauce or maybe a steak that needs a hard sear. That food goes on the front burners.
Right, because it requires your immediate, undivided, active attention.
Exactly. If you look away, it burns and the meal is ruined. But you also have a pot of stew. It's important to the meal, but it really just needs to simmer slowly.
So you physically slide that pot to the back burners where it can be safely ignored for a bit.
Exactly. You're managing your spatial and thermal resources.
And idiomatically, putting a project or an idea on the back burner means temporarily pausing it or delaying a decision, so you can dedicate all your cognitive resources to what is truly urgent.
The business example from the source is perfect for this. Upgrading your company's website design is a great, valuable idea.
Right, it's the stew.
But it's currently the middle of tax season. The taxes are the delicate sauce that will start a fire if ignored. So the website redesign must go on the back burner until the taxes are filed.
But let's dig into the cognitive mechanics of this, because putting something on the back burner is fundamentally different from just throwing it in the trash.
Yes, that is a crucial distinction. You aren't giving up on the idea.
Right, you are acknowledging its value while respecting your own biological limits. In psychology, there is a phenomenon known as the Zeigarnik effect.
Oh, what is that?
It states that our brains remember uncompleted or interrupted tasks vastly better than completed ones.
Really?
Yeah. Unfinished tasks act like open tabs in your brain's web browser, and they constantly drain your cognitive battery. So if you just try to ignore a good idea, like the pyramid documentary or the website redesign, the Zeigarnik effect ensures it will keep popping into your conscious mind, distracting you from your front burner work.
It's that nagging feeling of, oh, don't forget about this, don't forget about this.
So precisely. By explicitly telling yourself, I am putting this on the back burner, you are actively categorizing the task. You are creating a trusted system.
So you signaled to your brain that the idea isn't lost, it's just scheduled for later.
Exactly. This satisfies the Zeigarnik effect, closing that mental tab and freeing up your working memory, which, by the way, can only hold about 4 chunks of information at a time anyway.
Oh, wow.
So now you can focus entirely on the front burner.
It's like the ultimate defense against the rabbit hole. You don't have to fight your curiosity. You just tell the white rabbit, hey, I see you, you're very interesting, get on the back burner, I'll deal with you on Friday.
It's an act of mature prioritization. It actively manages your cognitive load.
And once you master that categorization, once you've ruthlessly cleared the wonderland of distractions and safely moved the simmering ideas to the back, you clear the space to achieve the absolute ultimate state of productivity.
You create the conditions necessary to get in the zone.
To be in the zone. This is an expression that originated in sports psychology, but it is now ubiquitous in the professional world.
Yes, and psychologists refer to this as a flow state.
Right. We've all heard the post-game interviews. The quarterback says, I couldn't hear the crowd. The game just slowed down. I was in the zone.
The concept of flow was pioneered by the psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi.
Okay.
And it describes a state of supreme, uninterrupted mental focus, absolute clarity, maximum efficiency, and total immersion.
It is the absolute pinnacle of human cognitive performance.
When you are in the zone, the barrier between you and the task completely dissolves. Action and awareness just merge together.
The source illustrates this with a really universal office scenario. Someone says, don't interrupt Sarah right now. She has her headphones on and is completely in the zone with her financial report.
We all recognize that aura.
Oh, absolutely. You do not tap Sarah on the shoulder.
Because if you do, you shatter a highly fragile neurochemical state.
It's that delicate.
Oh, yeah. Flow isn't just a feeling, it's a physiological event. During a flow state, the brain experiences what's known as transient hypofrontality.
Transient hypofrontality, what does that mean?
Well, the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain responsible for self-monitoring, second-guessing, and your inner critic, actually downregulates. It quiets down.
Oh, wow.
That's why you don't feel anxious or self-conscious when you're in the zone. You just execute.
That actually explains the most fascinating symptom of the zone that the source mentions, which is temporal distortion. Time just seems to disappear.
Exactly.
You look up, 4 hours have passed, and it felt like 20 minutes.
Because the part of your brain that tracks the passage of time is located in that exact same prefrontal area that just powered down.
That makes so much sense.
Your brain is allocating 100% of its processing power to the task, leaving 0 resources to monitor the clock or any external stimuli.
It's like putting on high-end noise-canceling headphones, but for your soul.
I like that.
Like the hum of the air conditioner, the ping of the phone, the anxiety about tomorrow, it all drops to absolute 0. Your thoughts stop bouncing off the walls and laser focus into a single beam.
But, getting into that state isn't a simple matter of just wishing for it.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Csikszentmihalyi's research showed that flow only occurs under very specific conditions. When the challenge of a task perfectly matches your skill level.
Right.
If the task is too hard, you feel anxiety. If it's too easy, you feel boredom. The zone exists on that razor's edge right between the two.
Which brings up a very uncomfortable reality that our source document addresses next.
It does.
Because we'd all love to gently coax ourselves into the zone by perfectly balancing our skills and challenges. But in the real world, that deep state of focus is rarely voluntary.
No, it's not.
More often than not, getting into the zone is violently forced upon us by external circumstances, specifically by a rapidly approaching, inescapable deadline.
Right. We rely on the threat of failure to force the focus. The source introduces this intense, high-pressure phase as crunch time.
Crunch time, the period right before a major deliverable is due. Like the software launches on Friday, so it's officially crunch time for the developers. They'll be working late into the night.
Notice the physical sensation embedded in the idiom itself. The word crunch.
Yeah.
It's an onomatopoeia. When you say it, you evoke the visceral feeling of being actively squeezed or compressed under heavy pressure.
I picture a junked car in an industrial compactor. You know, that groaning sound of metal giving way under thousands of pounds of hydraulic pressure. That is the crunch.
During crunch time, your reality is that compactor. The timeline is shrinking rapidly, but the volume of work remains massive.
So the discrepancy between time and task creates immense psychological pressure.
Exactly. It forces a team to strip away all pleasantries, abandon all those back-burner tasks, and execute purely on adrenaline. It's incredibly fast and hard work.
Now, I want to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
Because crunch time has a pretty terrible reputation in modern workplace culture. We talk about it like it's just a failure of management. But historically, hasn't crunch time produced some of the greatest achievements? Engineers had to invent a carbon dioxide filter out of literal garbage in a matter of hours to save the astronauts' lives. That was the ultimate crunch time.
It was.
They didn't have time to meditate or perfectly balance their skill-challenge ratio. The pressure forced a genius-level flow state. So doesn't crunch time work?
It absolutely works, but we have to be incredibly precise about how it works and the biological cost it extracts from us.
Okay.
What you're describing is the Yerkes-Dodson law, which models the relationship between arousal or stress and performance.
How does that work?
As stress increases, performance increases up to a certain peak. That's the Apollo 13 moment. The fear of death spikes their cortisol and adrenaline, hyper-focusing their cognitive abilities.
The rabbit holes disappear.
The busy work disappears.
Because it's a survival mechanism.
Exactly. It leverages our evolutionary fight-or-flight response to prioritize immediate cognitive output. But the Yerkes-Dodson curve is a bell curve.
Oh.
Yeah. Once you pass that peak of optimal stress, performance doesn't just slowly decline, it falls off a cliff. Your working memory collapses, you make careless errors, and panic starts to override logic.
So relying on crunch time is essentially weaponizing your own biological panic response just to, do data entry or finish a slide deck.
Yes. And while a metal car can be crunched once in a compactor, a human being subjected to repeated chronic compression will suffer structural damage.
Yeah, makes sense.
Cortisol and adrenaline are designed for short-term survival-like running from a predator, not for sustaining a 6-month product launch. If crunch time becomes your baseline operating system rather than a rare emergency, you trigger a physiological breakdown.
Which moves us into the final and most severe section of our deep dive, the physical and mental toll of overcommitment.
The warnings.
Yeah. Working late during crunch time is occasionally necessary, sure. However, the source issues a severe warning. If you operate in this compressed state too often, you trigger the final, most dangerous phases of the productivity cycle.
And our source document uses a stunning, really poetic idiom from the 17th century to describe this ultimate endpoint.
It's an incredible phrase.
It is. When you live in that compressed state, you begin to burn the candle at both ends.
To burn the candle at both ends, it is a masterpiece of visual metaphor and arguably the most evocative phrase in the entire C2 syllabus.
It really paints a picture of the ultimate recipe for physical and mental exhaustion.
The imagery is just so stark. Think about a classic wax candle. Its entire design relies on a slow, controlled burn. You light the wick at the top. The flame consumes the wax gradually, providing steady, reliable light over hours or even days.
Right.
Now, alter the physics of that object. Imagine turning the candle completely sideways. You light the top wick, and then you light the bottom of the candle simultaneously.
You've introduced chaos into a stable system.
The candle is now burning twice as fast. Hot wax is dripping everywhere. The structural integrity is collapsing from both sides. And inevitably, because you are holding a rapidly melting stick of fire horizontally, it is going to eventually burn your fingers.
In modern usage, the source defines this as depleting your physical and mental energy reserves from both sides of the clock.
Waking up extremely early to work.
That's lighting the top of the candle.
And staying up incredibly late to work.
Lighting the bottom. And we connect this right back to the crunch time squeeze. The crucial element of this metaphor is that the candle is you. You are the finite resource being aggressively consumed. You are literally burning away the resource to meet the deadline.
The source gives the example of Mark, who is working a demanding full-time job and studying for his master's degree late into the night. He is burning the candle at both ends and is on the verge of collapsing.
And if we look at the biology of burning the candle at both ends, we're really talking about the destruction of sleep architecture.
Right.
When you compress your sleep window, You aren't just feeling drowsy. You are depriving your brain of REM sleep, which processes emotional regulation, and deep slow-wave sleep, which physically clears neurotoxins from the brain.
So you're accumulating what doctors call allostatic load, right? The wear and tear on the body from chronic stress.
Exactly. The wax is disappearing, and it cannot be replaced nearly as fast as it's being melted.
And the tragic irony, which brings us to our final idiom today, is that the light produced by a candle burning at both ends isn't actually twice as bright.
No, it's just erratic.
Yeah. When you push yourself that hard across multiple domains, you don't achieve excellence in all of them. You achieve a systemic failure that the source describes through a final culinary phrase.
You end up being spread too thin.
To be spread too thin. This is a perfect description of overcommitment, and it's an experience everyone has had at a breakfast table.
I know I have.
You return to the kitchen, you have a massive, thick piece of toast, but you only have one tiny, pathetic piece of butter left.
Oh, it's the worst.
You take your knife and attempt to stretch that small amount of butter across the entire massive surface area of the bread.
You're just scraping the knife against the toast, trying to force the butter to cover every single square inch.
Technically, you might get a microscopic sheen of butter over the whole slice, but the layer is so translucent, so fundamentally lacking in density, that when you take a bite, you can't even taste it.
The bread is still dry.
Exactly. The butter is physically present, but effectively invisible and meaningless.
The source example here is volunteering for 3 different committees in 1 month, resulting in feeling completely thin and doing a mediocre job at absolutely everything.
Let's look at the actual physics of this because it perfectly explains the psychological trap.
Oh, I love this part.
Pressure equals force divided by area.
Right.
Your energy, your talent, your time, that is the force. The committees, the projects, the side hustles, that is the area. If you have a finite amount of force and you continually increase the area over which it's applied, the resulting pressure drops to near zero.
That is a brilliant translation of the idiom. In cognitive science, this manifests as attention residue.
Attention residue.
Yeah. Every time you switch from committee A to project B to side hustle C, a piece of your cognitive focus gets left behind on the previous task.
Oh, wow.
You're constantly operating with a fraction of your intelligence because your brain is exhausted by the switching costs. You simply lack the concentrated density required to make an impact anywhere.
So what does this all mean? If we step back and look at the entire arc of this deep dive, that realization brings us completely full circle.
It really does.
Think about the physics equation we just discussed. If your pressure has dropped to zero because you are spread over too wide an area, you are structurally incapable of doing the one thing we started this conversation trying to do.
You cannot move the needle.
Exactly. You cannot force the heavy, resistant needle of a gauge to move if your energy is a microscopic, translucent layer of butter.
Right.
Doing a mediocre job at everything, being spread too thin, is the exact opposite of moving the needle and making a noticeable impact. Moving the needle requires concentrated force. It requires you to be a dense, heavy weight pressing down on one specific point. Being spread too thin is the ultimate dilution of that force.
The entire ecosystem of productivity is deeply connected. I mean, you cannot concentrate your force if you are constantly sliding down the algorithmic rabbit holes of distraction.
Yep.
You cannot maintain your density if you refuse to utilize the back burner for your simmering ideas. And you certainly cannot sustain the focus pressure required to change reality if you have burned your candle to nothing during a perpetual toxic crunch time.
It's a profound framework hiding inside everyday language. Let's briefly retrace the map we've drawn today through the source material.
Let's do it.
We started with the foundational desire to escape the illusion of busy work and actually move the needle on our goals.
But we immediately collided with the neurobiology of stuck effort, finding ourselves spinning our wheels in the deep mud, burning glucose and generating frustration without forward motion.
Right. To escape the mud, we took a break, only to face the digital warren of rabbit holes, where algorithms weaponize our natural curiosity to trap us in an illusion of learning.
And we learned to defend against that by satisfying the Zeigarnik effect, organizing our cognitive urgency by pushing important but non-urgent tasks to the back burner.
Which cleared the runway to achieve the transient hypofrontality of a flow state, allowing us to be entirely in the zone.
But we also faced the harsh reality of external pressure, debating the short-term efficacy versus the long-term toxicity of high-pressure deadlines during crunch time.
And finally, we witnessed the severe physiological dangers that occur when we ignore our biological limits, burning the candle at both ends until we are left spread too thin to make any impact at all.
I want to remind you, the listener, that the true value of understanding these highly visual C2 English metaphors isn't just about impressing colleagues with native-level fluency.
Right. It's not just a vocabulary test.
No, it's about cognitive behavioral awareness. These idioms provide a vital, tangible framework to measure your own daily energy and focus. They give you the diagnostic tools to name your invisible struggles. When you can articulate, "My amygdala is hijacked, I am spinning my wheels," you bypass the vague feeling of anxiety and empower yourself to execute the specific solution.
Like walking away to reset your default mode network, you are giving shape to the invisible landscape. And I want to leave you, the listener, with a final provocative thought to mull over as you transition back into your own workday, building on the contrasts we found in the source material today.
It's an important question.
Take a hard, unapologetically honest look at your current struggles with productivity. Look at the goals that are stalling out. Right now, in this exact moment, which of these two distinct traps is the actual culprit? Are you currently suffering more from the deep mud of spinning your wheels, meaning you are stubbornly pouring a massive, roaring amount of energy into one single, localized problem, but going absolutely nowhere because you refuse to take your foot off the gas? Or are you suffering from the massive piece of toast of being spread too thin, meaning you are moving constantly, switching tasks frantically, but your finite force is stretched over far too vast an area to leave any noticeable mark? Because the cure for spinning your wheels is a break, but the cure for being spread too thin is a boundary. Identifying which of those two idioms accurately defines your biggest roadblock today is the necessary first step to finally getting back on the road, creating the pressure you need, and moving the needle.
Usually, when we talk about success, we tend to talk about building a house.
Right.
You pour the concrete, you frame the walls, put on the roof, and you move in.
It's very step 1, step 2, step 3.
Exactly. It's this clean, sequential, and honestly deeply comforting narrative. I mean, we desperately want the world to be logical, right? We want it to just follow a master plan.
Yeah, and that linear progression really feeds this fundamental psychological need for predictability that we all have.
Yeah, for sure.
Like if we put in the correct inputs, we expect the correct outputs. The human brain is essentially just a prediction machine, constantly trying to map out a safe, straight path from, where we are right now to where we want to be.
Right, it wants a straight line.
Yeah.
But what happens when a metaphorical sinkhole opens up right underneath that perfect foundation?
Oh, yeah. Then the plan is gone.
Totally. Suddenly, the blueprint is useless. The concrete cracks, the walls cave in, and you are no longer managing a project. You're managing a disaster.
Yeah.
So today, for all of you listening, we are taking a deep dive into the intricate, highly visual, and sometimes, honestly, incredibly dark vocabulary of survival.
It gets really intense.
It does. We're looking at a collection of advanced linguistic concepts that dissect how we articulate adaptability, endurance, and ultimate triumph when the master plan completely disintegrates.
And the language we use to describe these moments, it tells us something really profound about human psychology.
How so?
Well, when plans fail or, markets crash or personal disasters strike, the English language actually abandons all that sterile corporate jargon.
Right. We don't say we experienced a negative synergistic outcome.
Exactly. Instead, it borrows the most intense imagery imaginable. We see metaphors pulled from the terrifying lack of control in open ocean sailing, or the blood and guts physics of the boxing ring, and even literal judicial torture from medieval history.
Which is wild.
It is. And the sweeping grandeur of ancient mythology, too.
So mastering this vocabulary is like an absolute masterclass in emotional intelligence for you guys listening. It signals that you actually understand the mechanics of resilience.
Caught on.
So let's start at the very beginning of a crisis.
Yeah.
Imagine you've spent months or maybe even years designing a massive project.
Okay.
You've poured your heart, your soul, and your entire budget into it.
Right.
You launch it, and it completely undeniably fails.
Yeah.
The immediate requirement here is to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, the classic phrase.
We all know it, but the architectural imagery here represents a very specific physical and psychological space.
It really does. I mean, the drawing board is the domain of pure potential.
Right.
But returning to it after a failure, that is an exercise in profound ego death.
Oh, wow. Ego death.
Yeah, because you have to visualize that large angle table, right? The blueprints are rolled out, they're sketched in blue ink. You thought you had a masterpiece.
But you didn't.
No. The design is fundamentally flawed. Like, maybe a prototype has failed its safety inspection catastrophically. The psychological hurdle here is what behavioral economists call the sunk cost fallacy.
Oh, right, where you just can't let go.
Exactly. When we invest immense time and energy into something, our brains are just wired to defend that investment at all costs.
We want to grab a roll of Scotch tape and just tape up the cracks on the blueprint.
Right, just patch it up.
Like, we look at a leaning, structurally compromised skyscraper design and think, if we just change the color of the lobby or maybe tweak this one little support beam, it'll totally hold.
Which is entirely irrational.
Totally irrational. But the urge to salvage the wreckage is just overwhelming.
Well, and that urge is driven by a dopamine deficit.
Really?
Yeah, admitting that your previous 100 hours of work were completely useless is a massive blow to your self-concept.
I bet.
So the idiom, back to the drawing board, demands the complete opposite of that instinct. It requires radical humility.
Radical humility. I like that.
You cannot tweak the broken prototype. You have to scrap the whole thing, walk away from the wreckage, and stare at a terrifyingly blank piece of drafting paper. It's a total macro reset.
Think about one of the most famous pivots in tech history. So, you know the communication platform Slack?
Oh, yeah, of course.
It didn't start as a productivity tool at all.
Wait, really? What was it?
It started as a massive, ambitious, multiplayer online video game called Glitch.
A video game. I had no idea.
Yeah. The founders spent years and millions of dollars building this bizarre, whimsical gaming universe.
Wow.
And it failed. The player base just wasn't there. The architecture of their business was fundamentally flawed.
So they couldn't just patch it.
Exactly. They couldn't just add a new level to the game or change the marketing. They had to look at the wreckage, swallow their pride, and literally go back to the drawing board.
That's incredible.
They scrapped the entire game and looked at this internal communication tool they had built just to chat with each other while coding the game.
Oh.
Yeah. That blank piece of paper became Slack.
See, that is the perfect illustration of the concept right there. The death of the first idea is the prerequisite for the survival of the entity.
Right.
But what's really critical to understand is that once you manage to swallow that pride, once you sit back down at that drawing board and sketch out attempt number 2, the pressure doesn't just reset to 0.
Oh, no. Definitely not.
In fact, it compounds.
Because now you have this track record of failure kind of hanging over your head.
Exactly.
So you launch that second attempt, or you step into a new high-stakes role to fix the mess, and you are immediately thrust into a trial by fire.
Yes.
And we throw this phrase around casually in modern business, but the historical roots of this idiom are incredibly dark.
Yeah.
And literal.
Oh, they really are. It originates from the judicial practices of the Middle Ages, specifically the ordeal of fire.
Which is just terrifying to think about.
It was a literal mechanism of judgment. If someone was accused of a crime, the legal standard of the time dictated that they hold a glowing, red-hot piece of iron in their bare hands. Or walk barefoot over burning coals.
I can't even imagine.
And the prevailing belief was that divine intervention would miraculously protect the innocent from the flames.
Right, like God would save them if they didn't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you blistered and burned, well, you were deemed guilty.
Translating that medieval physical torture to modern professional pressure is staggering. I mean, we don't use red-hot iron in the workplace today, thankfully.
Totally, yeah.
But the emotional temperature is analogous. A modern trial by fire almost exclusively applies to this intense, unavoidable pressure very early in a new job or a new role.
Yes, the timing is key there.
Like, imagine a new CEO stepping in right in the middle of a massive financial crisis.
Okay.
She didn't cause the crisis, but the moment she takes the job, she is standing in the flames.
Right.
The board is panicking, the stock is plummeting, the press is calling constantly. That is her red-hot iron.
Exactly. The underlying mechanism there is high-stakes testing. From a neurological standpoint, a trial by fire floods your system with cortisol and adrenaline.
Oh, for sure.
It triggers that classic fight, flight, or freeze response. And the organization is basically watching to see how the individual's nervous system handles extreme, unavoidable duress.
Will they drop the iron?
Right. Will they drop it? Will they panic and freeze? Or will they hold it, process that intense heat, and actually make rational decisions despite the pain?
It's the ultimate crucible for proving your competence. If that new CEO survives the initial blistering heat of the new role without burning down the company, she proves she belongs in the chair.
Absolutely.
But here's the brutal reality of crises for everyone listening. Surviving the initial trial by fire doesn't mean the fire goes out.
Sadly, no.
The financial crisis doesn't resolve in 24 hours.
Yeah.
Once you prove you can handle the acute heat, you realize you have to settle in for a prolonged, incredibly difficult period of physical and psychological endurance.
And the vocabulary shifts here too. We move from these sudden acute tests to chronic, exhausting survival.
Right.
We enter the realm of radical acceptance with the nautical concept of weathering the storm.
Oh, I love this one.
And the physical environment of this idiom is vital to really understanding its psychological weight.
Right, so picture a wooden ship in the middle of the open ocean.
Okay.
The sky turns pitch black. The waves are the size of apartment buildings. It is a terrifying, deafening hurricane.
Terrifying.
And the crucial detail here is that the captain of that ship, no matter how skilled they are, no matter how much authority they have on board, they cannot magically stop the wind.
Right. You cannot negotiate with a hurricane.
Exactly.
Which forces a confrontation with the illusion of control. We spend so much of our professional and personal lives operating under this assumption that if we just, work harder or argue better, we can fix any problem instantly.
We really do.
But weathering a storm demands the exact opposite. It is the psychological practice of acknowledging that you are entirely powerless over the external environment.
Wow. Powerless.
Yeah. You can only control your internal micro actions.
So you can't fight the storm. So you secure the sails. You tie down the loose cargo. You grip the steering wheel and keep the nose of the ship pointed directly into the waves so you don't capsize.
Right.
You are merely surviving until the ocean decides to calm down.
Exactly.
Think about a company facing a massive viral public relations scandal.
Oh, those are messy.
Very.
Yeah.
Public outrage is the hurricane wind. The company cannot wave a magic wand, issue a single press release, and make the public love them again instantly.
No, and usually trying to do that makes it worse.
The harder they fight the wind, the worse the PR disaster gets.
Precisely. So the strategic move is to weather the storm. They rely on their cash savings. They cut non-essential costs.
Right.
They keep their heads down. They absorb that temporary loss of reputation. And they just wait. They use their resources to sustain themselves until the external environment naturally calms down.
It's entirely about not sinking.
Yes.
The problem with passive endurance, though, is that while you're accepting the storm, you're still taking damage. Debris is flying at you. Problems keep hitting you. If you just lock your knees, grip the wheel, and brace yourself rigidly against every single wave, the structure of the boat, or honestly, your own mental health, is going to shatter.
It will break under the pressure.
Right. You need active evasion, which brings us to the physics of the boxing ring. Rolling with the punches.
Yes. We shift from the vast, uncontrollable ocean to this intense, localized, highly kinetic combat.
Yeah.
And this idiom is entirely about cognitive and physical flexibility. Like, if a heavyweight boxer is terrified and stands completely rigid, absorbing a punch directly to the face, the force has nowhere to go but into their rigid skeletal structure.
Oh, man.
They absorb 100% of the kinetic energy.
Their jaw breaks, they get knocked out cold.
Exactly.
But a professional doesn't stiffen up. When they see that heavy leather glove coming, they lean backward.
Yeah.
They twist their neck and their torso, moving in the exact same direction as the incoming force.
Because it's basic physics. By rolling with the momentum of the opponent's glove, the boxer vastly increases the duration of the collision.
Right.
And increasing the time over which the force is applied drastically reduces the peak impact force.
So they don't get hit as hard.
Well, the punch still lands, you still get hit.
Right.
But because you maintained that fluidity, it's a glancing blow instead of a knockout strike. Translated to human behavior, this is cognitive flexibility in the face of sudden aggression or misfortune.
I think about the environment of live television, or like a chaotic commercial kitchen during the dinner rush.
Oh, yeah. High stress.
Very. Unpredictability is the baseline. A camera dies. The teleprompter freezes. The main oven shorts out.
And those are the punches.
Those are the punches. If the director or the head chef stands there rigidly, screaming about how the equipment shouldn't break, demanding that reality conform to their expectations, they absorb the full negative impact of the failure.
They do.
The broadcast stops. The kitchen crashes.
And that rigid response is a manifestation of the free state we talked about earlier.
Oh, right.
But rolling with the punches means instantly adapting your stance. The camera dies. You fluidly switch to camera 3 without missing a beat.
Yeah.
You accept the misfortune immediately, alter your behavior to accommodate it, and keep moving. It is the ability to maintain forward momentum while under constant, unpredictable assault.
But wait, if you're just constantly adapting to whatever hits you, aren't you losing control of your actual direction?
That's a good question.
Like if you just stand in the ring rolling backwards forever, you're never going to win the fight. Eventually, merely surviving isn't enough. You realize your overarching strategy is fundamentally flawed, and you need to navigate your way out of the crisis.
And that tension right there introduces the concept of the strategic pivot.
Okay.
We return to the ocean for this one, moving beyond just weathering the storm to actually navigating against hostile conditions. The phrase here is to change tack.
Right. In sailing, the wind almost never blows exactly in the direction you want to travel.
Rarely ever.
If your destination is due north, the wind is probably blowing straight at you from the north. The strategic brilliance of tacking is how it uses opposing resistance to generate forward momentum.
It's fascinating.
It is. Sailors sail at a sharp angle to the right, catching the wind on the side of the sails, and then make an abrupt, sharp turn to the left. They zigzag across the water. Each sharp turn is a tack.
And the distinction here between changing tack and going back to the drawing board is really critical for listeners to grasp.
How so?
It is a question of scale. Going back to the drawing board is an abandonment of the foundational goal. You scrap the entire blueprint,
Right.
But changing tack is an abrupt change in mid-course strategy because a specific method is failing. The ultimate destination remains exactly the same.
Oh, right.
You don't abandon the ship, you simply alter your angle of approach to the wind.
That makes sense. Consider a massive marketing campaign. A company launches a highly aggressive, confrontational ad strategy to disrupt the market and increase sales.
Sure.
But the market hates it. The customers are offended. The company is sailing directly into the wind, and it's pushing their sales backward.
Right.
Now, going back to the drawing board would mean shutting down the company entirely or inventing a totally new product.
Which would be a fatal overreaction in this case.
Totally.
The product isn't the problem, the angle of approach is. So, by changing tack, they immediately drop the aggressive messaging and pivot to a softer, educational, community-focused approach.
Yeah.
The goal increasing sales hasn't changed. The product hasn't changed. But they zigzagged. They demonstrated navigational agility to outmaneuver the hostile market conditions.
So you change tack, you survive the crisis, and you finally reach safe harbor.
Yes.
The acute danger is over. What happens next is a really fascinating psychological shift.
It really is.
When you are in the fire or you're weathering the storm, your brain is operating purely on survival instincts. But as time passes, your perspective on that initial catastrophic disaster begins to warp. The language captures this beautifully with the phrase, "a blessing in disguise."
Yeah, and it has a deeply theatrical, almost mythological quality to it.
It does.
The concept of post-traumatic growth is embedded right in the words themselves.
Oh, true.
A blessing, which is a stroke of immense luck or divine favor, is wearing a disguise, a terrifying mask meant to hide its true identity. It speaks to the severe limits of our immediate perception during a crisis.
Because when the disaster strikes, all we see is the terrifying mask.
Exactly.
Think about someone being fired from a really comfortable, high-paying corporate job that they've held for a decade.
Okay.
In the moment they are handed that cardboard box to pack up their desk, it feels like pure devastation. The mask is terrifying.
Right.
They are thrust into the trial by fire of unemployment and financial panic.
But that exact loss of safety, that destruction of their comfort zone, is often the catalyst that forces them to finally take a risk.
Yeah.
It pushes them to start the personal business they had been dreaming about, but were honestly just too comfortable to pursue.
I've seen that happen so many times.
Right. And years later, sitting as the CEO of their own successful enterprise, they look back at the day they were fired. The passage of time removes the disguise.
They realize the firing wasn't a curse.
No, it was the universe forcefully evicting them from mediocrity. The disaster was the required mechanism for their ultimate success.
Which brings up a related idiom that we use to try and force this perspective shift onto other people. Every cloud has a silver lining.
Yes.
We use it to bring comfort. You visualize a massive, dense, pitch black storm cloud blocking out the sun.
Right.
That cloud is the crisis. But if you look at the absolute outer edges, you see the brilliant light of the hidden sun creating a glowing silver border.
It's a beautiful image.
It is.
Yeah.
It tells us that even the darkest situations contain hidden comfort or secondary benefits. But and I've pushed back on this one, doesn't this border on toxic positivity?
Like, if someone loses their home in a fire or goes bankrupt, telling them to look on the bright side or find the silver lining feels incredibly dismissive. It feels like an insult to their actual suffering.
That is a crucial distinction, and it entirely depends on the emotional intelligence of the application.
Okay, unpack that for us.
Toxic positivity demands that a person ignore the dark cloud entirely and pretend everything is fine. It denies the reality of the pain.
Right.
But the concept of the silver lining, when used with genuine empathy, does not deny the cloud. It acknowledges the massive, oppressive darkness of the storm.
So it's about how you use it.
Exactly. The emotional intelligence lies in timing and framing. You don't tell someone whose house just burned down about a silver lining while the embers are still hot.
Right. You don't say, well, at least you don't have to vacuum anymore.
Exactly. That would be awful. You apply it when the acute shock has passed and the person is trapped in despair, unable to see a path forward.
You acknowledge the terrible reality, but you gently point out a secondary benefit to help them regain a sense of agency.
You have an example?
Sure. Say a friend breaks their leg right before a massive, expensive ski trip. The dark cloud is the pain, the lost money, the isolation.
Yeah, that's a huge bummer.
As an emotionally intelligent friend, you don't minimize that. But you might point out that being stuck on the couch for 6 weeks means they finally have the uninterrupted captive time to write the novel they've been putting off for years.
Oh, I see.
You are offering them a tool for cognitive reframing, helping them locate the disguise the blessing might be wearing.
It's a tool for survival, not a dismissal of pain. I love that.
Yeah.
But, reframing reality in your head doesn't actually clean up the mess on the ground. Perspective does not sweep the floors.
No, it doesn't.
The physical reality of a major failure requires grueling, tangible recovery, which brings us to the phrase, pick up the pieces.
This is a very grounded phrase.
Very. Imagine dropping an incredibly expensive, irreplaceable antique glass vase on a tile floor.
Oh, no.
It shatters into 1,000 jagged fragments.
And the visual of shattered glass perfectly encapsulates the immediate aftermath of a systemic collapse.
It really does.
You cannot just find the silver lining, look at the ruined floor, and walk away. The environment is compromised. It is dangerous.
And the phrase dictates a very specific physical posture. To pick up the pieces means you have to physically get down on your hands and knees.
Right.
You have to painstakingly, carefully collect all the sharp, broken fragments. It is tedious. It is dangerous. You are probably going to cut your hands. It honors the absolute exhaustion of recovery.
Yes, it is the unglamorous, necessary labor of resilience. We can look at this on a macro scale, like a community coming together after a devastating hurricane, physically moving rubble, dealing with insurance adjusters, slowly rebuilding infrastructure over years.
Yeah.
Or on a micro scale, an individual navigating the shattering of a long-term marriage.
Oh, that's a great example.
They have to move to a new apartment, untangle finances, navigate custody, and slowly rebuild their daily routine.
Right, picking up the pieces.
Exactly. Picking up the pieces honors the slow, careful, and often painful work of returning a chaotic environment to a baseline of functionality. There are no shortcuts. You just have to handle the broken glass.
But if you do that work, if you stay on your knees and clear the floor, you unlock the absolute pinnacle of this vocabulary progression.
Yes, the big one.
You move from the physical realm into the epic and the mythological. You rise from the ashes.
Such a powerful image.
It is. We've gone from drafting tables to sailboats to boxing rings, and now we are dealing with the phoenix of ancient Greek and Egyptian mythology.
And this represents the highest possible register of triumphant language.
Totally.
It describes a rebirth that is so spectacular it actually defies logic. The lore of the phoenix is critical to really understanding the depth of the metaphor.
Break it down for us.
Well, when the magnificent bird reached the end of its life cycle, it didn't just quietly fade away.
Right.
It built a nest and burst into consuming brilliant flames. It burned completely to death. Nothing was left but a pile of gray ashes.
And from those exact ashes, a brand new, younger, stronger phoenix would be born. The crucial detail here is the biological material.
Yes.
You couldn't just patch up the old bird. The rebirth didn't happen in spite of the destruction. The rebirth came directly from the destruction.
That is the philosophical core of the idiom. The ashes of the failure are the required raw material to build the new, superior entity.
Wow.
It brings us full circle to the drawing board, but with a triumphant, undeniable outcome.
Think about a technology startup that completely fails.
Okay.
They burn through their capital, their product is rejected by the market, and they declare highly public bankruptcy. They're reduced to ashes.
Literally nothing left.
Right. But the founders use the agonizing lessons learned from that exact failure, the structural flaws, the market data, the resilience forged in the fire to pivot, secure new funding, and invent a revolutionary new platform. Years later, they dominate the industry. Their destruction was the prerequisite for their ultimate dominance.
You see this in sports all the time, too.
Oh, absolutely.
A franchise finishes in absolute last place for 5 consecutive years. The culture is toxic, the management is failing, the team is in ashes.
Yeah.
But that sheer humiliation is the fire that forces them to tear down the entire organization, draft entirely different players, change their philosophy, and eventually win the championship.
They didn't just recover.
No, they used the ashes of their humiliation as the actual fuel for their victory. It is the ultimate reward for surviving the trial by fire.
So, mastering all these phases, having the humility to return to the drawing board, the fortitude to survive the trial by fire, the acceptance to weather the storm, the agility to roll with the punches, the vision to change tack, and the diligence to pick up the pieces, it all culminates in a permanent state of being.
Yes.
You develop a psychological architecture that makes you practically invincible to future shocks.
Which brings us to the final phrase, the ultimate compliment you can pay to someone's resilience. Land on your feet.
Yes. We move from the mythological bird to the physics of the feline riding reflex.
Right. The cats.
Anyone who has a cat knows this phenomenon. If a cat falls from a tree, it doesn't just plummet limply to the ground.
No, they somehow always twist.
In midair, while falling, it utilizes an incredible internal gyroscope. It instinctively twists its spine, rotates its body, extends its legs, and miraculously lands safely on all 4 paws, ready to walk away.
And to say a human being will land on their feet is a statement of absolute trust in their internal mechanics.
Like you just believe in them.
Exactly. It means you trust their cognitive and emotional gyroscope to navigate sudden, terrifying drops.
Yeah.
When a highly talented professional is unexpectedly laid off, the shock of the fall is very real. The ground is rushing up at them.
It's terrifying.
But their peers aren't panicking. They say, oh, don't worry about David. He will definitely land on his feet. Because they know he has the networking skills, the adaptability, and the emotional regulation to twist in midair and secure a new, perhaps even better position before he hits the ground.
And, it applies to voluntary leaps, too.
Oh, definitely.
Like someone taking a massive risk, packing up everything, and moving to a new, expensive city with no job and no safety net.
Yeah, that's a huge leap.
They're voluntarily jumping out of the tree. But the people who know them aren't terrified for them, because they possess that feline resilience.
You will hustle.
They will change tack, they will roll with the punches, they will process the chaos in real time and stick the landing.
It is the culmination of everything we've discussed today. It is the external recognition of internal mastery.
We have traversed an incredible landscape today. I mean, we started at the absolute devastation of staring at a flawed blueprint and having to scrap the whole thing.
We really did.
We walked barefoot through medieval fires, gripped the wheel in a nautical hurricane, twisted away from heavy punches, zigzagged against the wind, found the hidden gifts disguised as disasters, scraped our hands picking up the shattered pieces of glass, and watched a magnificent mythological bird rise from its own ashes before finally landing perfectly on all 4 paws.
Wow. It is a profound progression that maps the entire human experience of adversity.
It really is. And for you guys listening, utilizing these idioms demonstrates a deeply nuanced understanding that life is not a straight line and that you have the vocabulary and therefore the conceptual tools to survive the curves.
Absolutely.
Connecting these visceral metaphors to your own personal history, finding your own drawing board moments, your own silver linings, is the best way to lock this understanding into your mind.
And before we conclude, I want to leave everyone listening with a final provocative thought regarding the actual power of this vocabulary.
Ooh, okay.
We have discussed how these words describe resilience, but consider the psychological principle of linguistic determinism.
Which is what exactly?
It's the idea that the language we use actively shapes our perception of reality.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So what if the words themselves are the active ingredient? What if the very act of framing our worst, most painful failures through these epic, historical, and mythological metaphors is the actual psychological mechanism that generates the strength to survive them?
That reframes the entire conversation.
Right.
If you lose your job and you just say, oh, I failed, I had bad luck, you are casting yourself as a victim of circumstance.
Yes.
It is a passive, depressing,
Yes.
low-agency narrative.
Exactly.
But if you call that exact same disaster a trial by fire, if you say you are weathering the storm, suddenly you are not a victim. You are a warrior facing a test of character.
Yes.
You are a captain fighting a hurricane.
Yeah.
By using this epic language, you elevate your struggle. You turn yourself into the active hero of your own unfolding story. The vocabulary doesn't just describe the resilience, it manufactures it.
It provides the psychological armor required to step back up to the drawing board.
I love that so much. So, the next time that sinkhole opens up under your perfectly planned house, remember that you now have the words to build a bridge right over it. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Yes, thank you.
We hope you found the silver lining in spending this time with us, and we wish you the absolute best as you navigate your own storms.
Keep learning and keep adapting.
And remember, no matter how hard you fall, you have the mechanics to land on your feet. Until next time, take care.